I've lived long enough to know nothing good comes at midnight. When you've seen 61 years, you learn how to read the silence of a house, how to sense when the night carries trouble. That night, trouble came in the form of a pounding knock against my front door. The sound jolted me upright in bed, my heart beating like it wanted to escape my chest. I froze, listening. The knock came again. Heavy, impatient, the kind of sound that doesn't ask permission but demands attention. Before we continue, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the bell icon, so you never miss a story like this one. I pulled my robe tight, slipped into my slippers, and walked slowly down the hallway. The boards creaked beneath my steps, each groan of wood sounding louder than it should in the quiet house. "Who is it?" I called, my voice shaking despite my best effort to sound firm. "It's me, Mama." "It's Darius." The voice hit me harder than the knock itself. My son, the one I hadn't seen in almost a year. My hand pressed against the doorframe, steadying me. Memories of Darius as a boy, running through this same hallway, laughter spilling behind him, his small hand gripping mine, clashed against the silence that had stretched between us in recent years. We had grown apart, tangled in arguments and disappointments too heavy to untangle. And now here he was, on my porch at midnight. "I've got Simone with me," he added quickly. Simone, his wife, always polished, always smiling with her lips, but not her eyes. I'd never trusted her warmth. It felt rehearsed, like a smile she practiced in the mirror. I hesitated, then slowly unlatched the chain. I cracked the door open, letting the porch light spill across their faces. Darius looked tired but alert, his eyes darting past me into the house. Simone stood just behind him, her arms folded, her lips curled into that practiced smile. "Can we come in?" Darius asked. "It's late and it's cold out here." Something deep in my chest told me to say no, but the mother in me, the part that remembered holding him as an infant, whispering lullabies when he cried, wouldn't let me turn him away. I stepped aside. The warmth of the house swallowed them, but the air grew heavier, as though the walls themselves braced for what was to come. Darius kissed my cheek quickly, almost formally. Simone brushed past with a faint perfume trailing her, the kind of scent that filled a room without leaving warmth behind. "It's been too long, Mama," Darius said, lowering himself onto the couch. "Why now?" I asked, still standing, still clutching the edge of my robe. "It's midnight. You don't come see me for months, then you show up like this?" Darius's smile was thin, too thin. We just wanted to talk. To be family again, Simone placed a hand on his arm, her manicured nails gleaming under the lamp. "Yes, Evelyn. Family should stick together, especially at this stage in life. You've carried so much alone. Maybe it's time you let someone else take care of things." Her words floated across the room, smooth as honey, but leaving a bitter aftertaste. I sat slowly in the armchair opposite them, my chest tight. The grandfather clock ticked steadily, each swing of the pendulum sounding louder than my own breath. I looked at my son, my flesh and blood, and for the first time, I realized this visit wasn't about family, it wasn't about love, it was about something else entirely. The clock ticked steadily in the living room, but the air between us felt still and heavy. Darius leaned back on the couch, his hands clasped in front of him, eyes fixed on me as though I were the one intruding. Simone sat beside him, her posture perfect, her smile practiced. "I don't like surprises," I said finally, my voice cutting through the silence. "Especially not at this hour." Darius chuckled lightly, but the sound didn't touch his eyes. "Mama, Don't be like that. We just wanted to see you. It's been too long. Too long. He said it as if those months of silence had been my doing, as if he hadn't ignored my calls, or skipped holidays, or let tension rot whatever bond we had left. I folded my hands in my lap, steadying them. You should have come in daylight. You don't wait a year and then knock on my door at midnight unless there's something you're not saying. Simone leaned forward, her voice honey smooth. Evelyn, don't take it the wrong way. We were just driving back from a late dinner and thought, why not stop by? We miss you. But I caught it. The flicker in her eyes, the slight hesitation before the word miss. It wasn't longing that brought them here. It was need. Late dinner? I asked casually. Where? She blinked, just for a second before answering. Oh, just a little place downtown. You wouldn't know it. Darius shifted beside her, clearing his throat. Mama, don't interrogate us. We came because we care. But his tone was defensive, sharp, the tone of a man caught unprepared. I rose, moving toward the mantel where Jonathan's photo stood. My late husband's smile stared back at me, steady and warm, reminding me of the days when family had meant safety, not suspicion. You never cared for surprise visits when your daddy was alive, I murmured. He believed family earned their place with honesty, not midnight knocks. Darius's jaw tightened, the mask slipping. Dad's gone, Mama. We can't keep living in the past. Simone's hand brushed his arm, her touch both calming and commanding. She looked at me, her smile sharpening. We just think you've been carrying too much. This big house, your finances. It's a lot for one woman. Let us help. Let us take some of that burden. There it was, the word again. Burden. Not love, not family. Burden. I forced a thin smile. I didn't realize my life was weighing you down. For the first time, Simone's smile cracked. We're only trying to be practical. You're not young anymore, Evelyn. It's time to think ahead. My stomach turned. They hadn't come for reconciliation. They hadn't come for love. They had come with a plan. The grandfather clock chimed once, sharp and echoing. And in that moment, I knew. Whatever this midnight visit was, it wasn't a reunion. It was a trap. The night grew longer, each tick of the clock heavier than the last. Darius and Simone spoke in circles, their words coated with politeness, but hiding edges sharp enough to cut. I answered little, letting silence stretch between us, because I needed time to think and to remember. Jonathan's picture on the mantel seemed to watch me, steady eyes behind the glass. My husband had been gone 10 years, but sometimes it felt like yesterday. The day we buried him, the air smelled of pine and fresh earth, and I remember thinking life had tilted off its axis. The doctors said it was his heart, quick, sudden. But even then, I carried a small, stubborn doubt. I sat back in my chair, folding my arms. You know, your father used to say, truth never stays buried. It waits, quiet, patient, but it always rises. Darius stiffened, his eyes flicking to Simone, then back to me. Mama, you shouldn't dwell on the past. It's not healthy. Simone smiled, her voice soft but pressing. Jonathan was a good man, but he's gone. Don't torture yourself with ghosts. You have to think about now, about tomorrow. Their words were too smooth, too insistent. And in them, I heard the same tone Jonathan once used when he tried to shield me from something. I remembered nights when he came home late from the shop, his shoulders slumped, his eyes shadowed. I remembered hushed arguments between him and Darius, the slam of a door, the sound of Jonathan's voice breaking when he thought I wasn't listening. I had told myself it was normal, father and son clashing. But now, sitting here with Darius watching me like a hawk, I wondered, had those arguments been about more than pride? Your daddy worried too much about money, I said carefully, studying Darius's face. He carried burdens he never shared with me. Sometimes I think he tried to protect us by keeping secrets. Darius shifted, his jaw tight. Dad made his choices. The way he said it, clipped, dismissive, sent a chill down my spine. Simone leaned in, her hand brushing his arm, her smile never wavering. What matters is that you're safe now. But to stay safe, Evelyn, you need to let us take responsibility. Your home, your savings. They shouldn't weigh on you. You deserve peace. The word fell heavy, not comforting but final, like a door closing. I looked again at Jonathan's picture. My doubt, buried all these years, rose like smoke from an old fire. His death had never sat right with me. And now, with my son pressing so hard, that doubt grew sharper. I couldn't shake the feeling that Jonathan's ghost wasn't haunting me. He was warning me. I've lived in this house for over 30 years, and never once did it feel like anything but home. But that night, as the hours dragged on, I began to feel the walls closing in. Darius and Simone had settled in like they owned the place. Simone straightened the cushions, rearranged the magazines on the coffee table, even pulled back the curtains as if testing the view. Darius walked the rooms with the restless energy of a man surveying land he believed was his. I sat in my chair, watching quietly, every muscle tight. It was near 2 a.m. when I rose for a glass of water. I reached for the landline in the kitchen, more out of habit than need. But when I lifted the receiver to my ear, all I heard was silence. The line was dead. A chill ran through me. Behind me, Darius's voice came smooth, too casual. Storm must have knocked it out. You know how these old lines are. But there hadn't been a storm in weeks. I turned slowly, the receiver still in my hand. When did you notice? He shrugged. Doesn't matter. You don't need the phone tonight. You've got us here. I set the receiver down gently, masking the tremor in my hands. Later, when I tried the front door, I found the deadbolt locked tight. I reached for my keys on the hook, but the ring was gone. Looking for these? Darius asked, stepping from the shadows, the keys dangling from his hand. His smile was easy, but his eyes were cold. You don't need to worry about locks, Mama, he said softly. We'll handle things. He slipped the keys into his pocket. Simone entered then, holding a tray with fresh tea. She set it down on the counter with deliberate grace. You should rest, Evelyn, she said. Let us watch over the house tonight. Her voice was gentle, but there was no comfort in it. Only control. I nodded, forcing calm. I'll rest when I'm ready. The 3 of us stood there, the silence sharp as glass. Then Simone's smile widened just a fraction. Don't fight us. We only want what's best. But I saw the truth in her eyes. Best didn't mean for me. It meant for them. By the time dawn painted pale light across the blinds, I hadn't slept a minute. I sat in the armchair, watching the 2 of them move freely through my house, touching things that weren't theirs, speaking in whispers I couldn't quite hear. This house had always been my sanctuary, but now, brick by brick, they were turning it into a cage, and I was the one locked inside. By evening, the air in my house was thick and stale. As if the walls themselves knew something was wrong, Simone moved through my kitchen like she owned it, pulling spices from the cabinet, stirring pots on the stove, her humming soft but sharp, like a knife dragged across glass. Darius set the table in the dining room. He whistled quietly, the tune familiar from his boyhood, but the sound now felt hollow. I watched him place the plates, mine at the head of the table, his and Simone's opposite, as if we were a family again. But nothing about this scene felt like family. It felt like theatre. Before we continue, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the bell icon, so you never miss a story like this one. When Simone carried the food in, the smell of roast chicken filled the air. My stomach turned, though I hadn't eaten all day. She ladled vegetables onto my plate, her eyes holding mine. "Eat," she said softly. "You need your strength." Her words sounded less like care and more like a warning. I picked at the food, my fork clinking against the plate. Darius raised his glass of water, his smile thin. "To family," he said. I didn't lift mine. Family protects each other. Family doesn't break in at midnight and take away keys. The smile slipped from his face. He leaned forward, elbows pressing into the table. "Mama, you're making this harder than it has to be." "We're trying to help you." Simone cut in, her tone velvety smooth. "What Darius means is you shouldn't be carrying everything alone. You're not young anymore, Evelyn. Accidents happen. Slips, falls. It doesn't take much." Her eyes lingered on me with deliberate weight. I set my fork down carefully. "Are you threatening me?" Her smile widened just slightly. "No, dear. I'm reminding you how fragile life can be." The room chilled, though the food still steamed between us. Darius leaned back, folding his arms. "We're not asking for much. Just let us handle things. Sign the papers. Make it official. That way you won't have to worry about anything ever again." The scrape of my chair against the floor echoed as I stood. My voice came low, steady. "Your father used to say the truth always finds its way out. And it will. You two may think you've planned everything, but lies don't last." For a moment, silence pressed down like a weight. Darius's face hardened, his jaw tight. Simone's smile froze, sharp and brittle. We finished the meal in silence, the scrape of cutlery louder than words. Every bite tasted of ash. When Simone cleared the plates, she leaned close enough for me to feel her breath. "You can fight us, Evelyn. But in the end, you'll see it's useless." I didn't answer. I only looked at Jonathan's photo on the wall, his steady eyes reminding me that strength was still mine to hold. But deep inside, I knew. Dinner had not been about food. It had been about power. And I was living with people who believed I no longer had any. The house was still when I woke before dawn, but I knew better than to believe I was alone. Darius and Simone were sleeping in the guest room, or at least pretending to. Their presence lingered everywhere. The faint scent of Simone's perfume in the hallway, the sound of Darius's heavy boots by the door, the keys he had pocketed still missing from the hook where they belonged. I slipped from bed, careful to move without a sound, and padded down the hall toward Jonathan's old study. My husband had always been meticulous with his records, keeping every receipt, every bill, every scrap of paper that tied to our life. It was a habit I once teased him about. Now, it was the habit that might save me. The door creaked softly as I pushed it open. Dust caught the early light, swirling in the air like restless spirits. Jonathan's oak desk stood solid against the wall, the same desk where he had balanced accounts late into the night, muttering to himself as he scribbled notes. I pulled at the bottom drawer. It stuck for a moment before sliding open with a low groan. Beneath folders of old invoices and tax slips, my fingers brushed something smooth. A book. Thin, leather-bound, its edges worn. I drew it out, my breath catching. Jonathan's handwriting filled the first pages, neat and steady. Household expenses, shop supplies, careful notes about savings. Then, suddenly, the writing changed. Sloppier, angrier. Darius's scrawl. My hands trembled as I flipped through the pages. Withdrawals, thousands at a time, scribbled without explanation. Notes in the margins. Covered, borrowed, repay later. Lies stacked on lies. Names appeared that I didn't recognize. Small businesses, banks, private lenders. Then, larger numbers, tens of thousands. And finally, on the last page, a single desperate line. Owe $82,500. Running out of time. Must fix before she notices the she was me. My knees weakened, and I sat heavily in Jonathan's chair, the ledger trembling in my hands. Darius had been bleeding us long before Jonathan died. Jonathan must have discovered it. Maybe that's why he had seemed so burdened in his final days. A floorboard creaked behind me. I shoved the ledger back into the drawer and turned, schooling my face into calm. Darius stood in the doorway, his silhouette sharp against the dim light. "Couldn't sleep?" he asked, his voice smooth, but his eyes flicked toward the desk. "Just remembering your father," I said softly. He stepped into the room, his presence filling it. His gaze lingered on the drawer, then on me. He held on to too much clutter. Papers, old tools. Sometimes I think he liked hiding things. I steadied my voice. "Your father believed in records. He believed truth belonged on paper." Something flashed across his face. Annoyance, maybe fear, before his mask slipped back into place. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Well," he said lightly, "truth is a tricky thing. Depends on who's telling it." He turned and left, his footsteps fading down the hall. I sat frozen for a long moment, listening to the house breathe around me. The ledger remained, hidden in the drawer. But now I knew. My son wasn't just visiting. He was cornered by debts, driven by desperation, and he believed I was the solution. That night, the house groaned under the weight of silence. Simone and Darius had retreated to the guest room hours earlier, but I knew they weren't sleeping. Their whispers had drifted through the hallway, sharp and urgent, like knives scraping against stone. I sat in my bed, staring at the ceiling. The ledger's words burned into my mind. Owe $82,500. Running out of time. Jonathan's neat numbers had given way to Darius's messy scrawl, proof of the lies he had woven for years. I thought that would be the worst discovery. But deep inside, something told me there was more. I slipped from bed, tying my robe tight, and padded down the hallway. The door to the guest room was cracked open just enough to let their voices seep through. "She's suspicious," Simone hissed, her tone clipped. "She's always suspicious," Darius muttered, his voice tight with irritation. "Doesn't matter." "She has no proof she was in the study," Simone pressed. "If she found the ledger, then she knows what she shouldn't," he snapped. My breath caught, but I stayed still, pressing my back to the wall. There was a long pause. Then Simone's voice softened, low and dangerous. "What about your father?" "She still talks about him like he's watching her. If she ever pieces it together?" Darius's answer came like a growl. "She won't." "She can't." The bed creaked, footsteps shifted. Then his voice dropped lower, breaking with frustration. He was going to ruin everything. He found out about the money, the loans, all of it. I begged him to stay out of it, but he wouldn't listen. So, I made sure he couldn't interfere again. The words hit me like ice water. Jonathan. My Jonathan. His death hadn't been sudden. It hadn't been fate. My own son had made it happen. Simone's whisper slithered out next. And you never told her? You think she could look at me the same way? Darius said bitterly. If she knew I let him fall. If she knew I stood there and watched. Fall? The word stabbed through me. Jonathan had been found on the floor of his workshop, his tools scattered, the doctors saying it was his heart. But now, in the dark, the picture twisted. Not collapse. Not heart. A struggle. A shove. A fall. Simone exhaled, her tone cold. Then she can never know. She won't, Darius said firmly. By the time this is over, everything will be ours. And she'll be nothing but a memory. I staggered back, barely able to breathe. The wall was the only thing holding me upright. For 10 years, I had mourned a husband stolen by illness. But now I knew. Jonathan had been stolen by our son. I crept back to my room, silent as shadow. I shut the door softly and pressed my back against it, trembling from head to toe. The son I had, once cradled, the boy who had once run into my arms after school, had become the man who killed his own father. And unless I acted carefully, I knew he planned to do the same to me. Morning light crept into the kitchen, pale and cold, but it did nothing to warm me. I sat at the table with my coffee untouched, my hands wrapped around the mug just to keep them from shaking. The words I had overheard last night still pulsed in my head. Darius admitting he let his father fall, confessing that Jonathan's death had been no accident. The son I had raised, the child I once carried on my hip, had become the man who murdered his own father. And now, I was next. Darius entered the kitchen, his shirt buttoned neatly, his face calm. Simone followed, her presence as sharp as a blade in its sheath. They sat across from me as though this was just another family breakfast. "Mum?" Darius began, his voice smooth. "We've been patient. But we need to settle things." Today I didn't speak. I only stared at him, searching for the boy I had once known. He wasn't there. Simone leaned forward, her smile polite but cold. "Evelyn, it's time. The house, the accounts, all of it should be transferred. You'll still live here, of course, but officially, it will be ours. That way you don't have to carry the responsibility anymore." I let the silence stretch before answering. "And if I don't?" Darius's smile faltered. "Then you're leaving us no choice." My voice cracked, but I forced strength into it. "Your father built this house with his hands. He trusted me to protect it. I won't hand it over to greed." He slammed his fist against the table, the dishes rattling. "Don't talk to me about him. He was weak. He let Marcus overshadow me. He gave him everything while I got scraps. I've earned this, Mama. I've waited long enough." My chest tightened at the mention of Marcus, my firstborn, the son we had lost too soon. I whispered his name like a prayer. Marcus. Darius's face twisted. Marcus is gone. I'm the one still here, and I won't live another day in his shadow. The truth clawed at me, not just about Jonathan, but about Marcus too. I saw it in Darius's eyes, in the venom in his voice. My eldest son's death had never been fate either. "You hurt him," I said, my voice trembling. "You hurt your brother." For a moment, the mask slipped completely. His silence was answer enough. Simone's voice cut through the air, calm, merciless. "Evelyn, stop fighting. Sign the papers. Give Darius what's his, and you can live out your days in peace. Resist us. And accidents happen." The words hung heavy, their meaning undeniable. I stood, my legs shaking but my back straight. "No, I will not sign. And if you try to take what isn't yours, you'll regret it." Darius's jaw tightened, his eyes narrowing. Then you've made your choice. He rose from the table, his shadow stretching long across the floor. Simone stood with him, their unity colder than steel. They thought they had broken me, but in truth, they had given me something else. Clarity. They weren't just after my home, they were after my life, and I was done waiting for them to strike first. After their ultimatum, the house no longer felt like mine. It felt like theirs, their voices filling it, their shadows stretching across every room, their presence closing in on me. But if they thought I was beaten, they were wrong. I hadn't survived 61 years of life, of loss, of hardship, only to surrender now. I needed a plan. I moved through the rooms slowly, my steps deliberate, pretending to tidy, pretending to be the aging mother too tired to resist. But my eyes searched for opportunity. A door unlocked, a window unlatched, anything that could lead me out. The landline was still dead. My cell phone, gone, no doubt tucked into Simone's purse. The front and back doors were locked tight, the keys jingling in Darius's pocket when he moved. That left only the windows. Upstairs, I pushed my bedroom door shut and turned to the window by the oak tree Jonathan had planted when Marcus was born. Its branches stretched wide enough to break my fall. The latch gave way with a creak, the night air rushing in, cool and sharp. My pulse thundered. I pulled the window higher, swung one leg over the sill. The drop looked farther than I remembered, but freedom shimmered just below. Footsteps on the stairs. I froze, half in, half out, as Darius's voice rose from the hallway. "Mama? You awake?" I pulled myself back inside, my hands shaking. I shut the window just as the door swung open. Darius leaned on the frame, arms folded, eyes narrowing. "Going somewhere?" I forced a weak smile. "Just airing the room. It gets stuffy at night." He stepped inside, glancing at the window, then back at me. His smile returned, but it was colder this time. "Careful you don't fall. At your age, one accident could be the end." The word hung in the air, heavy, deliberate. I sat on the edge of the bed, pretending to be unfazed, though my heart was racing. "I'll be careful." He studied me for a long moment before turning away. "Get some rest, Mama. Tomorrow's going to be important." When he was gone, I exhaled the breath I'd been holding. My first attempt had failed. But I had learned something crucial. Darius didn't trust me anymore. Every move I made would be watched. So escape would have to come another way, not through doors or windows, but through proof. If I couldn't leave, then I would make sure when help arrived, they would know exactly what Darius and Simone had planned. And for that, I needed patience and courage. By evening, the air in the house felt heavier than the walls could hold. All day, Darius and Simone had hovered near me, their watchfulness disguised as concern. Simone brought tea I never touched. Darius shadowed my movements with the same excuse. "Just making sure you're okay, Mama." But I knew better. They weren't caring for me. They were circling me, tightening the trap. Dinner that night was the final straw. Simone prepared a meal with the precision of a surgeon. Roast chicken, potatoes, vegetables. Laid out as though this were any ordinary family supper. Darius sat at the head of the table, claiming the place that had once been Jonathan's. His posture rigid, his eyes burning with something I could no longer call love. I took my seat slowly, forcing calm into my voice. "You've gone through a lot of trouble for one meal." Simone smiled thinly. "We take care of family." Always, the words chilled me. The first few bites passed in silence, the scrape of silverware louder than conversation. Then Darius slammed his fork down, the sound making me jump. "No more delays," he said, his voice low but sharp. "We've been patient long enough." "It's time to sign the papers," I set my fork aside. "And if I don't?" His fist struck the table so hard the dishes rattled. "Then you leave us no choice." Simone placed a hand on his arm, but didn't calm him. She leaned toward me instead, her eyes gleaming. "Evelyn, you've lived a good life. Don't spoil what's left of it by being stubborn. Think of it this way. With us in charge, you'll never have to worry again." "Until I'm gone," I said flatly. The room went still. Darius's jaw tightened. His voice cracked with something raw, something feral. "You think I won't do it? You think I didn't already prove I could?" My heart stopped. "Your father?" He spat. "He thought he could stand in my way. He found out about the money, the loans, and he wouldn't stop pressing me. So I stopped him. And if you push me now, Mama..." His voice dropped to a whisper. "I'll stop you too." Simone didn't flinch. She only smiled, her voice soft as silk. "He means every word, Evelyn. So please, sign, and this can all be simple." I rose to my feet, my hands trembling but my spine unbending. "You may have taken Jonathan from me. You may have even taken Marcus. But you will not take me. Not my life. Not my home." For the first time, I saw fear flicker across Simone's face. Not for me, but for Darius, for what his rage might cost them both. Darius surged to his feet, his face twisted, his fists clenched. For a moment, I thought he might strike me, but I stood my ground, my eyes locked on his. "You'll regret this," he growled. "No," I said, my voice steady, stronger than I felt. "One day soon, you will." After the storm of that dinner, the house grew quiet. Too quiet. Darius and Simone retreated to the guest room, their whispers muffled behind the door. But their voices couldn't hide the truth anymore. I had heard it from Darius's own mouth. Jonathan's death wasn't an accident. My husband had been silenced. And now they wanted me gone too. Fear tightened around my chest, but so did something stronger. Resolve. If I couldn't escape through doors or windows, then I'd make sure when help finally came, the truth would already be waiting. Jonathan had been a meticulous man. He'd kept ledgers, notes, even a small digital recorder for reminders when his hands were too busy at the workbench. I'd found that recorder days ago while searching through his desk. It still worked. I'd slipped in new batteries. Tonight, I slipped it into my cardigan pocket and pressed the red button. When I walked into the hallway, my hands steady, I left the guest room door cracked wider than before. Inside, their voices carried. "She'll never sign," Simone hissed. "You're losing control." "I'll make her sign," Darius snapped. "And if she doesn't, then she's no better than Dad." He thought he could stop me, and look where that got him. Simone's voice softened, coaxing. "You can't lose your temper now. One mistake, and it's over." "I don't care," Darius muttered, his voice breaking with frustration. "I killed him, Simone. I'll do it again if I have to." The words pierced the air, sharp and final. My hand clenched the recorder in my pocket, its tiny red light blinking like a heartbeat. Proof. Solid, undeniable proof. I pulled back before they could notice me, retreating into the shadows of the hallway. My breath came fast, my pulse racing, but I held onto the recorder like a weapon. I sat on the edge of my bed, staring at Jonathan's picture. His voice echoed in my memory. The truth always waits. Well, the truth wasn't waiting anymore. I had it in my hand. The night stretched long. Their whispers died down, Then silence filled the house. But I didn't sleep. I sat upright, waiting, clutching the recorder close. For the first time in days, I felt something that had been missing since their midnight knock. The dawn came grey and heavy, but I was already dressed, the recorder tucked safe in my pocket. My body was tired, but my mind was sharper than it had been in days. The fear was still there, but it had been joined by something stronger. Purpose. When the knock came at the front door just after 8, my heart leapt. Not heavy like Darius's fist at midnight, not polite like Simone's knock on my bedroom door. This one was steady, rhythmic, familiar. "Evelyn? You all right in there?" Loretta Green, my neighbour, my friend. A woman who had checked on me every morning since Jonathan passed, no matter the weather. I hurried to the door, but Darius was faster. He blocked me with a hand on my shoulder, keys jingling in his other hand. His smile was tense. "I'll handle it." But Loretta's voice cut through the wood. "Evelyn, if you don't answer, I'm calling the police." The bluff hit him square. His face twitched. Simone appeared in the hallway, her eyes sharp, her voice urgent. "Don't let her in." I moved then, swift, deliberate. I yanked the door open, standing tall in the doorway. "Loretta," I said, my voice loud, steady. "Call Detective Brooks. Tell him to come now." Darius's hand closed around my arm, but I was already pulling the recorder from my pocket. I pressed play. His voice filled the air, raw and undeniable. "I killed him, Simone. I'll do it again if I have to." Loretta's eyes widened, her phone already in her hand. "You're finished," she spat at Darius. For the first time, I saw true fear flash across Simone's face. Not cold calculation, not control. Fear. Within minutes, red and blue lights flashed across the street. Detective Calvin Brooks stepped inside, his presence calm but firm. I placed the recorder in his hand, my voice steady. "This is everything." His words, their plan. Proof. The officers moved swiftly. Darius fought, shouting my name like it was a curse, but Simone's silence condemned her more than any scream. They were led out in handcuffs, their shadows finally gone from my house. That evening, the silence in my home felt different. Not suffocating, not heavy, peaceful. I walked into Jonathan's study, resting my hand on his desk, tracing the grain of the wood. "I kept my promise," I whispered. "I protected what you built. I protected us." Loretta brought me soup, scolding me for not sleeping, then sat across the table like she always had. We laughed a little, cried a little, and when she left, the house didn't feel empty anymore. It felt like mine again. Weeks later, Detective Brooks visited with the final news. The case was airtight. The ledger, the recorder, the confessions. All of it was enough to lock Darius and Simone away for good. When he left, I stood at the window, watching the sunlight spill over the oak tree in the yard. Jonathan had planted it the year Marcus was born. Marcus's laughter used to echo under its branches, Darius's footsteps chasing close behind. Now, the branches stretched strong and wide, sheltering the house like an old guardian. For years, I had lived with ghosts, Jonathan's, Marcus's, even the ghost of the boy Darius once was. But now, the house no longer felt haunted. It felt alive again. And as I sat in my armchair that night, a warm blanket over my shoulders, I realized I hadn't just survived, I had reclaimed my life.